Welcome, Mahogany.
Hey, hi,
Congratulations
Lori.
on your
Hi,
new book.
Lori. I'm excited. I'm gonna talk over you. This is happening in real time.
This is happening. I am beyond excited as well. This is your second YA book, and I know there's gonna be many more to come, but this was so phenomenal. Congratulations on Vinyl Moon. How do you feel?
So this is my second YA novel during COVID. All I'm saying is I don't know how I feel. Do you know what I mean? Like it goes from extreme happiness and pride and like, wow, I did this thing that I've been dreaming of all my life to in a scheme of things, I'm just happy to be alive, right? So the first time Chlorine Sky came out, which was last year, January, COVID was, it had disabled all parts of the publishing industry. In a way that no one was, I don't think we were ready for, but we had to rise to the occasion. We had to use whatever we had to make sure that we got that work out into the world and that we still had the conversations. And that became just like the heartbeat for this next book, Vinyl Moon, because I recognized that I was creating a world for people the way Toni Morrison created a world for me, the way Alice Walker created a world for me. So that in the midst of all this pandemic life and survival, you can always turn to a book and have a moment of respite. So I'm feeling everything. I'm all over the place.
Well, I am so proud of you. Every time you create a new work in the world, it embodies your spirit, your love, and it always brings the reader into it. I could not stop reading Vinyl Moon because I could literally hear it in your voice. I heard you speaking. I heard the meditations. I went through the books that I was like, yes, I read those books too. And it really made me return to my own childhood and my own teenage years when I was questioning myself and I was trying to figure out who I was in spaces. And I would love to start off there. Can you talk about who you were as a young person and the books that you read and what were the moments that helped you realize that you were a writer?
Who was I as a young person? I was very kind. I just actually talked to my cousin this morning and I asked her because I don't really have great memory reflex. I just don't have it in me. I don't know if it's because I was in this really bad car accident when I was young. And that's something that carried over, but I can remember if I see a picture. If I see a picture, it kind of jogs my memory back really well. Or if I talk to someone and they can like, you know, my cousin has been there all my life. So talking to her, the one thing she said is you were really kind. And I remember, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I remember like, you know, taking people, I would try to make brownies. I wouldn't even sell them. I'd be like, I just want you to have something nice. And they probably weren't really good. So maybe I wouldn't have paid anyway, but I was always generous, always considerate. And I was really treating people the way I wanted to be treated, even if it wasn't returned to me. You know, we don't learn about reciprocation until we're much older, how important it is in friendships and relationships. So I was working from a space of just give to show love. And the way I replenished myself, if it wasn't through sports, it was through books. And that meant Babysitter's Club, that meant Christopher Pike, Beverly Clearly, Judy Blume. My first Toni Morrison book was Bluest Eye that I read in a corner of a library, bawling. The second book that I read by a Black woman was Sapphire's Push, and then Bernice McFadden's Sugar. So I was on a roll. I had some really luscious writers like that were, you know, pulling me by my edges. And I realized after I threw, I think Sapphire's book is the one that made me, I threw it across the room because I was so invested. I did not like what was happening to the protagonist, okay?
Yes.
And it's even, I know Precious, the movie exists, but the book does something else.
Oh.
I wanted to do that. I wanted to be able to offer that journey.
And that is what you're doing. And it's not only are you doing it with your YA books, but you do it with your poetry, you do it with your editing. It really, that generosity you had as a child that your cousin saw really continues in your books. It continues on the page. And it is very evident that you care about the reader and you care about your characters. And I love the fact that you brought up The Bluest Eye, because I do feel like that really sets the literary precedent for Black girlhood in so many phenomenal ways, in painful ways, in beautiful ways, in ways that we can channel overcoming and also becoming our fullest selves. And you mentioned the bluest eye in this book numerous times. And I think it would be just a beautiful moment. Can you read a little from the book and just kind of set the conversation with that passage?
Okay.
I'm thinking of
We always got Brooklyn.
Always got Brooklyn. Yes, yes.
During the last Her Leadership Advisory, we go around the circle and describe our mood using the number system and then name one thing we're all thankful for. Eva said, privacy. Juju said, swag. Rochelle said, forgiveness. Camila said, avion. Taya said, silence. And I was so emotional, I almost cried before catching my breath. This, I said after a couple of uninterrupted seconds. I had just finished Toni Morrison's book, so really I think I was in my feelings. Camila handed me a Kleenex without missing a beat, and Raina came in right after. I'm grateful for my friends, Joe, in Brooklyn. We always got Brooklyn. Miss G moved on pretty quickly after that, but Camila just stared at me and mouthed, you okay? I nodded, pulled the hood over my head and steeled myself for the rest of the day. After finishing The Bluest Eye, my heart is heavy, like I got a bunch of stones in my hoodie pocket. Books make you tap into your own memories. Those memories come with old feelings, feelings you think you've put to bed, just to find out after each page is read and the story unfolds, those memories have awakened one by one. Memories of being afraid, memories of being not enough, memories of being misjudged, the kind of things that keep you up at night, or the kind of things that make you want to flip into survival mode when someone randomly catcalls you. Can I read a little more? Okay, okay. Because catcall is important for me to really jump into it. What does it mean to walk in the femme form and know that even your presence, just your you, is in harm's way. So have you ever been catcalled? It's like running forever towards safety, away from the sounds that scare you most. It's like pretending you are in control of your own life, of your own ideas, with no idea of who wants to take you. Let me start that over. Have you ever been catcalled? It's like running forever towards safety, away from the sounds that scare you most. It's like pretending you are in control of your own life, of your own ideas, with no idea of who wants to take your light from you. And it's like running until you hit a wall and the wall doesn't budge and the wall doesn't care that you're scared and you've been taught to fear the sound of walls, blocking your path, blocking your way, blocking your vision. Have you ever been catcalled? Being called ma, sweetie, sugar, honey by the people who don't know you. They sound so sweet when they say sweetie, sugar, ma, yo, ma. Your heart knows you can't trust it and your blood races and your eyes darked and you begin to sweat because you've seen what those sweet nothings can become if you don't accept them gracefully, if you don't acknowledge them. Have you ever been catcalled and witnessed ma transform into the word bitch? And watched baby bloom, then cut into the word slut, and learn how easily sugar can be shortened into a nasty slur. Have you ever been catcalled? Have you ever been chased? Have you ever been followed? Have you ever had to run, swing, and hide from danger? Have you ever been followed? Have you ever been chased up the block, behind the stairs? Have you felt your heart beating in your chest? Have you felt your heartbeat stutter, step, kick, and climb its way up your throat? Have you ever been bitten for saying no thank you? Have you ever been kicked for saying I'm not interested? Have you ever felt like you might not make it home safe? Have you ever felt like you might not make it home? Have you ever felt like you might not make it?
It's so, every time you read, I can feel it in my bones. I can feel like the energy and the urgency of the character, but also just of the moment. Why was it so important for you to have this tenderness with Angel? all showing us like what she's going through and the interior dialogue of her life. Like that cat call scene, it sits with me because yes, I do know what that feels like, to feel in danger, not safe, not able to reach home. And home is many places. It's not just like a physical location. It's like being at home within yourself. Can you tell us about how you got to these moments from a creative standpoint? Like, how did you know that you wanted to write about this for Angel?
Yeah. I love that question. And thank you for acknowledging that it is not happening in a vacuum, right? This is unfortunately normalized in the world that we are living in. The reason that I wanted to think about these kind of moments with Angel, she's crossing over from the chlorine sky world, but also it's as honest as possible, right? As kind and generous as I want to be, I don't want to ever mishandle the truth. And mishandling the truth means omitting the truth, right? It's like, oh, everything's going to be peachy keen. It's fine. It's not going to be peachy keen. We have to celebrate you, yes, but also support you with the knowledge and the understanding of how to protect yourself, how to bear witness, and in the words of these young people, how to really, to protect your neck. You have to. Yeah. And the only way you can protect your neck, shout out to Wu-Tang, is to know the truth, to know what is possible, to see the landscape despite what you don't want to believe in or subscribe to, but to just know like there's going to be hiccups, and how do I prepare myself? How do I protect myself? How do I steady myself to make it through? And I think Angel is one of those characters where I introduced just her plight in the initial story, and getting Vinyl Moon to be all about her was such a blessing, because then I really got to unpack the things that she survived and not just make her existence about survival, but about thriving.
Yes, that's what I love that you brought up the word survival, because that was like a theme that I took away. She not only survives these very hard moments, but she comes out of them a renewed person and has a full understanding of the person that she's becoming. And again, you brought up Chlorine Sky. That was like one of my other questions too, that connection from your first YA book to this one. Why did you decide to bring her out of the Chlorine Sky world and make her own story stand alone? Why was that important?
Well, I want to build a universe of Black girls, you know what I'm saying? Like, because we are, so, I wanted to build a universe where the Black girl voice is centered, where she comes from many different parts of the world, where she can be raising her siblings or raising her own child, or be an only child, or, be, a sports fanatic, or never had a first kiss. I want to build a universe for every kind of Black girl. And I'm not proposing that I'm going to write every character, but there's room for every character there. Yeah. So it was important for me to bring Angel in, someone who was introduced as just this problem beforehand, and show like, what don't you see, right? Like, what are the things behind the mask? What are the things that are happening behind closed doors? What don't you see that make us who we are when we come out into the community? When you see us in classrooms, when you see us on stages, when you see us running these book clubs that will change the face of the world? What don't you see?
Yeah. It's so important to have that diversity, but also so to see that power that exists with so many young Black girls. Like, we come from different stages of life. We have so much passion, we have so much beauty, and we're different. And those differences should be embraced and not separated. Yes. I want to talk about the young people in your life. Like, I know you work hand in hand with young people all the time. How did they influence you when you're writing YA? Like, how do you capture voice? Because you sound like a teenager, and I feel like that's something that's very hard to tap into. How do you kind of cultivate that and make sure that you have the right voice and it sounds authentic?
Thank you. That's so funny. Well, one, teaching young people through poetry has kept me on the front line, right? And often I think I'm the cool auntie, and they just remind me like, girl, no. I'm like, I got this joke, watch this. Is this how you Dougie? And they're like, Auntie Mo, no, like, don't do that. but the young people, they keep me honest. You know what I'm saying? They keep me honest. And my daughter also is someone that I'm very lucky to be able to turn back and be like, you know, nudge her. Is this what y'all be saying? Like, did y'all say like, okay, I'm just making sure, just checking in. Thank you. You know, so Spark Notes for the writers who are looking for YA world, find you a young person, all right, so that you can be the apprentice in their language, in their world.
I love that, because it is so important to be around young people. You know, intergenerational conversations are so essential for us to be more bonded. And I want to kind of continue to go into structure, because writing a novel in verse is no easy feat, but you make it seem so seamless. What were some of the like things that you did to help create this story? So it's because I'm always in awe of your poetry making. Like, you are such a beautiful poet, and to be able to do this without it without it just like feeling stunted in any way, or like every time I read I was like, okay, what's next? You just keep the reader hooked. How do you do that without without losing the reader? Like, how do you keep them like in the word?
That's interesting, because I'm always afraid that I'll lose interest, right? I am, because I know what it's like to read a book. I'm a voracious reader. If you can't keep my attention after 3 pages, I will turn the book back. I'm like, I'm good. Not because you're not a great writer, just because there's a certain energy that I need as a reader. And I want to make sure that I respond to that. So the poetry really is the nucleus of who I am. And I am lucky to be able to decide when it will appear. So while Vinyl Moon was a full novel in verse, this is a hybrid. It's prose, it's text message, we have epistolary moments. I'm trying to bring in all the facets of the way in which I write. But there were moments where I'm writing this prose, I'm like, is this boring? Am I bored? Because I feel like I might be boring myself, the writer. I have the moment. And so then I'm like, okay, what's missing? And more times than not, it's the energy, right? It's the soul. I don't want to just create tension. I don't want to just create trauma for someone to be invested. I want to create a heartbeat. I want to create a pulse. And those moments that feel like, because I'm just talking about everyday life, the moments where I feel like energy needs to be interjected, I can bring in the poem to just like, you know, lay some more foundation, be the glue that's keeping that reader's eyes peeled to that page.
Thank you for that, because that's essentially what I was looking for, just like how you come to that creative process. Because another thing that I noticed was, if there's so many wonderful meditations in the book as well, and if there is something that, even though, you know, with a traditional novel, you're reading it from like chapter 1 to chapter 10. And I felt myself wanting to go back to the meditations and going back to certain poems and read them again and again. One of my favorites was Have You Ever? Another favorite was meditation. Oh, I think I moved my sticky note, but there are just so many parts where I'm reading the story, but I want to go back to the poems too and sit with them. Would you mind reading one of the meditations with us?
Sure. And I'll talk about why I even put meditation in here. One, because trauma is a real thing, right?
Yes.
I didn't know about mindfulness and meditation until 2019. Like for real, I didn't know anything about that being mine, if that makes sense. I didn't realize that I can have that too. And it's not a rich person thing to do. It's not just a religious thing to do. It is a part of our like actual physical equilibrium, right? To be mind, body, and soul, to have those things connected and those things be equalized is important. So in 2019, when I began meditating, I realized like, oh, this is something that young people can do.
Yes.
And so I started, when I would go to classes and do these virtual readings and things like that, meditation became a part of that. And young people were like, at first, like, okay. But all you have to do is say, your meditation can say whatever you want, right? Yeah. It's yours. It's like the Post-it note of affirmation that you give yourself in the morning. Whatever you need to hear to get it going, to get you up and moving and like ready to seize the day. Or as I say to the kids, the carpe the diem, whatever it is, say that thing. That's your mantra. That's your meditation. And for Angel to be going through this domestic issue, to be relocated, I wanted to give her some grounding, and I wanted to feel as out of body as possible, as it felt to me. Because I was like, this ain't mine. I'm not going to do this. I'm not really going, it's not going to work. And then I did it once, I think in Florida on the water, sitting on top of the water at like this boathouse. When I tell you, I opened my eyes and I was like, whoa. And it was nothing but the air, the sound of the ocean, and me. That was it. But it was the thing that I realized I needed, right? We're going to find our different spaces for that meditation to, prepare us to come back to ourselves. But it's just about opening up your mind and being ready to do it, to give it a go. And so Angel is ready, all right? And she says, meditation be like, you got yourself. You got yourself. You got to grab a hold of yourself sometimes and just hold on. You got to stop hearing the bad. You got to stop storing the bad in the bag next to your heart. You got to let it go. You can only control your reaction. You can only control your field of vision. You got yourself. You ain't got to have nobody, but if you got you, you got the gold. You win. You a winner. You got yourself. You got it. You got the park walks if you are lucky. You got sweet desserts if you are looking. You got the sauce and the swag. You got it all, even when it feels like you got nothing. You got it. It is you. You got it. It is you. You know your name. You know your dreams. You got the power to change whenever you choose. You got the power to choose you. Remember. Do you remember? What is your favorite song? Sing that. What is your favorite color? Wear that. Who is your friend? Tell them you love them. Then look in the mirror. Now say it again. Even the weirdest things are still here because they have a name, like you. Even the strangest things are still here because they have a name, like you. Even the loneliest room is a room like you. Alone is not lonely because you have you. The world is not complete. All its vibrations and sensations, all its sounds and smells, all its lessons calling us to the front of the class. Hold on.
I love that so much. I love the relationship she builds with herself and the safety she builds within herself. Not only that, there's so many wonderful relationships she has with her friends and with her uncle and all these people that are showing her that she matters and that she's worthy and she can be ambitious in life and she can just be, again, her fullest self. Can we talk about the relationship between her and her Uncle Spence? There's one of my another things, I highlighted so many things in this book, but one of my favorite things I highlighted was Uncle and Scotty. And there's a line at the bottom where she talks about love. Love can make people laugh. Love can do more than make people cry. Love in my uncle's eyes swaying to the sound of possibilities. And I just was so impressed in the way that you were able to model love and friendship with the interactions that she was having and how you made all these possibilities happen, even though she was handling really difficult situations, especially when it came to the domestic and intimate partner abuse. Can you talk about that pairing of giving her just more possibilities and showing that love can exist in multitudes?
Yeah, I mean, you said it best. That was it. And can you read my book always? Thank you. I was really, I thought it was important to include different types of love. Yeah. The first time I wrote about young people, I realized how much of it felt like it was generated by romantic love. Yeah. And this is the only way to have a family. And this is there's all these ideas of what is correct in family, in love, in relationships, in friendships. And I just wanted to show so many different models of it working, of it being healthy, of it being beautiful, with not necessarily it being traditional. So Uncle and Scotty, they maybe used to date, they work together. You don't know what's really going on, but the respect is there. The energy is there. They check for each other. She sees it, the entirety of him. And this is big for Angel because she's coming from, her parents having an abusive relationship, to then understanding like, oh, I was in an abusive relationship too. Yeah. How did that happen? And just looking around her, looking at all the different models around her, all these examples of everyday life and love happening, and how she can now subscribe to those rather than this one traditional idea of what love and relationships are.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, not only young people, but everybody needs those examples. Like, I found myself feeling just reaffirmed by reading your passages and seeing that, like, yes, this love can exist in a multitude of ways, and we need to embrace it. And we need to be okay with, like, saying this didn't work for me, but now I know better and I can do better. And I feel like there's so many wonderful, like, do better moments. Do better for yourself, meditate, love yourself, love those around you. And even when the things happen that are hard and unexpected, you can survive those things and still come out of it a better, renewed person. I also want to I want to go back to the books and the titles. I really loved how you, like, labeled everything. Like, there's bookmarks part 1. And when she goes to Grand Army Grand Army Plaza, and, like, all these amazing different moments. Can you talk about, like, how you decided to curate the book and put those pieces in when it was in the final form?
I think, because so much of it happens in Brooklyn, and the one thing that I wanted to be mindful of is, if someone could use this as a map of checking out Brooklyn, what would that look like? How would that look? And that was the easiest way for me to do it. So, especially during COVID, writing this, I would take, like, my little neighborhood walks, which come up every now and again. Like, if you can walk, you are lucky. Yeah, I knew that how lucky I was, right? Like, some people were stuck in these buildings that only have elevators, and maybe the elevators broke, or you're stuck in snow, whatever. But I wanted to, like, give this little walking tour that allowed the folks to read it here. And then maybe if you go, you can see it in real time. I'm glad you like it, though. Did any of it ring true?
Yes, completely. Being after living in Brooklyn
a little bit.
Yeah, I felt Brooklyn. I am an honorary Brooklynite. Like, I love New York. I love living in Brooklyn, and it brought me back to different, like, parts. I was like, oh, I know exactly where she is. I know what she's doing, and I think the reader, who, whether you're from Brooklyn or not, will see that and appreciate that, those, like, landscapes and those tiny milestones. I think I would love, before we close, if you could read one more passage. I love hearing you read. If you could close with something to leave us with.
My pleasure. Thank you again for making time. As always, I tell people all the time that Glory is my North Star. She is the one for me. I just got to say it.
I love you so much. Stop. I love you.
You literally make so much space for different readers, different writers. And it's just, it's miraculous. It's miraculous that we're here today. And so I'm going to end with this small passage that includes a poem. It's Deja Vu on page 89. In the past, when Amir, my brother, and I were arguing over the remote control or the last bowl of cereal or whatever, Elena would growl, my mom, "I don't want to hear it." And we would talk under our breath, but not too loud, about what was fair and who was her favorite. This moment definitely felt like that. Rochelle opens her mouth, and Mrs. B says it matter-of-factly, "I don't want to hear it. You are juniors and seniors. You are preparing for the last year and the next stage of your life. Some of you are already well into the next step of your life." She looks to Camila, who was back sitting in her seat, but fuming. "This behavior will not fly, ladies. This program is special. Do you hear me?" She sits in Mrs. G's vacated seat. "I chose each of you. I chose each of you to work with Miss G. She is amazing, heavily sought after, and could have worked with anyone, but I chose you. Each of you has shown in your grades the quality of leadership. However, your lack of discipline is unacceptable. The world is waiting to eat you alive," she continues. "The world is waiting for you to fight each other and tear each other down. The world cares more about you on television and Twitter, swinging and berating each other, than they do about you lifting each other up." Mrs. B crosses her bangle-heavy arms. "This specific advisory is about sisterhood and unity. Camila rolls her eyes and Mrs. B holds her hand up in peace. I agree. Some of you have shown more progress than others, but all of you are the leaders this school needs, this world needs. A year from now, you will be deciding which college you want to attend or which country you want to visit. So I need you to speak to each other like the brilliant young minds you are. Some of us nod in agreement. Even Juju, Rachel, and Camila seem to agree, but they don't show it. Don't make me regret my decision, she says firmly. I know love like calling each other in the middle of the night just to hear one another breathing as you fall asleep. I know love can take its toll. It can take you away from your family. It can take your eye off the horizon. Where there is love, there is hope. And that's where I thought I could live forever. The thing about love is there are no rules. There is no knob to turn on or off. There is no order. There is no blueprint. Sometimes it's working fine, and then the next day it can be gone. A vinyl record skipping on its own, a light bulb blown out.
Thank you so much, Mahogany. I'm going to repeat your words back to you. Where there is love, there is hope, and you give us so much hope, and I love you immensely. Congratulations on your new book.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And these books are already signed and ready at Books Are Magic, so I'm excited for hearing what the world thinks along with us. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. We will be sharing your book and letting everyone to know to get Vinyl Moon and reading it, of course.
Yep, I'm ready. Bring us to your book clubs. We got it.
Yes, book clubs. Let's do it. Pick it up. Pick it up. Thank you, Mahogany.